He is the voice people trust. The calm authority behind gods, presidents, and narrators. The man whose words seem measured, deliberate, almost immune to chaos. Morgan Freeman became a symbol of control, of wisdom, of certainty. But the reality of his life was never controlled. It was slow, uneven, and physically demanding in ways that never made it into the voiceovers. Born into instability, raised across multiple homes. A childhood shaped by separation, financial strain, and the constant movement of a family trying to hold itself together. And the price of that later godlike image? Years of obscurity, manual labor, a body that would eventually carry the damage of accidents, aging, and long-term strain. What does it take for a man to spend decades being unseen before the world finally listens? And when the world finally does listen, what has already been worn down in the process? Before we begin, leave a like as a quiet tribute to a life that was never as smooth as the voice suggests. He was born on June 1, 1937, in Memphis, into a working-class black family navigating the rigid structures of the American South. His mother, Mamie Edna, worked as a teacher. His father, Morgan Porterfield Freeman, was a barber. The household income was inconsistent. Stability depended on who had worked that week. His parents separated when he was still young. That separation wasn't abstract. It meant relocation. It meant being sent to live with relatives. It meant learning early that home was not a fixed place but a temporary arrangement. He spent large parts of his childhood in Charleston with his grandmother. The environment was quiet but strict. There was no excess. Meals were structured, routines were fixed, and expectations were clear. You did what you were told. You did not complain. The United States at that time was still deeply segregated. For a black child growing up in the 1940s South, opportunity was not just limited, it was structurally blocked. Schools were underfunded. Facilities were basic. The idea of becoming an actor was not just unlikely, it was almost irrelevant. Statistically, black Americans born in the 1930s in the South faced significantly lower access to higher education and professional careers. Most entered labor-intensive jobs. Many never left their hometowns. Freeman's early exposure to acting came in fragments. School plays. Small performances. At age 12, he won a statewide drama competition. It was a moment, not a turning point. There was no industry pipeline waiting for him. No agent. No connections. Just a brief recognition followed by the same reality. Limited options. After high school, he turned down a partial drama scholarship. Not because he lacked interest, but because the path didn't seem practical. Instead, he enlisted in the United States Air Force. He trained as a radar technician. The work was technical, repetitive, and structured. Long hours. Precision tasks. Minimal creative outlet. He has spoken about realizing during this period that he didn't want to spend his life watching screens and tracking signals. The realization didn't come as inspiration. It came as dissatisfaction. He left the Air Force after 4 years. Not with a clear plan, but with a rejection of the life he was living. What followed was not a direct move into acting success. It was a series of unstable jobs. Clerk work. Manual labor. Small gigs. He moved to Los Angeles to study acting, but survival came first. Rent had to be paid. Food had to be secured. Acting became something he pursued around everything else. Training happened in fragments. Classes at the Pasadena Playhouse. Small roles. Stage work that paid little or nothing. The industry itself was not designed for someone like him. In the 1960s, roles for black actors were limited, often stereotypical, and rarely led to long-term careers. Many actors worked for years without recognition. Most never broke through. Freeman spent nearly 2 decades in that space. Not rising. Not quitting. Just working. He appeared in theater productions that required physical endurance. Long rehearsals, repetitive performances, minimal pay. He supplemented income with other work. There was no financial cushion. Every decision had immediate consequences. In 1967, he landed a role in an all-black Broadway production of Hello, Dolly. It was a significant step, but not a breakthrough. It meant visibility within a limited space, not industry-wide recognition. Through the 1970s, he became more recognizable through the children's television show The Electric Company. The work was steady, but it carried a label: educational programming, limited prestige. It paid bills, but it didn't elevate his career into mainstream film. By his late 30s and early 40s, he was still not a widely known actor. This is critical. Most Hollywood careers, statistically, peak earlier or fade out by that point. For many, this would have been the end of the attempt. Instead, his life during these years was defined by repetition. Auditions, rejections, minor roles, waiting. The physical reality of that period mattered. Long commutes, standing in lines, performing under hot stage lights, minimal rest, financial stress. These are not abstract struggles. They wear down the body over time. There was no guarantee that the investment would pay off. In fact, the probabilities suggested it wouldn't. And yet, he continued. By the early 1980s, Freeman was in his mid-40s, an age where many actors begin to see fewer opportunities, not more. But his persistence began to shift his trajectory. Small film roles started to appear. Not leading roles, not high-paying roles, but roles that placed him in front of wider audiences. The transition was slow, incremental. Each role added a small layer of recognition. There was no single moment where everything changed. There was accumulation. Years of work, stacked without immediate reward, eventually reaching a threshold. But that threshold came at a cost. Time, physical strain, emotional endurance. He did not arrive in Hollywood as a young, fresh face. He arrived as a man already carrying decades of labor, rejection, and adaptation. And that history stayed with him. In his posture, in his voice, in the way he delivered lines, not as performance, but as something closer to lived experience. By the time the world began to notice Morgan Freeman, he had already spent more than half his life working toward it. Not climbing quickly, but moving forward in small, deliberate steps. This was not a story of early success. It was a story of endurance under conditions that statistically eliminate most people long before they reach recognition. And the deeper truth is this: the calm, steady voice the world would later associate with authority was built on decades of instability, movement, and physical persistence. The foundation of his career was not talent alone. It was survival. By the mid-1980s, the pattern began to shift. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but in a way that could only be measured over time. Morgan Freeman was no longer just present. He was being noticed. In 1987, he appeared in Street Smart. The role was not large in screen time, but it was concentrated, controlled. His performance as a volatile street figure forced attention. It earned him an Academy Award nomination. At 50 years old, he was finally entering a space where the industry could no longer ignore him. This matters statistically. Most actors who achieve major recognition do so decades earlier. Breaking through at 50 is not common. It means carrying the physical and mental wear of a long career into a phase that is typically reserved for younger bodies. The roles that followed built on that foundation. In Driving Miss Daisy, he played a chauffeur whose job was defined by routine: driving, waiting, observing. The performance required restraint, minimal movement, controlled expression. He was nominated again for an Academy Award. Then came Glory, where he portrayed a soldier in the American Civil War. The physical demands of that role were different. Uniforms, staged combat, long shooting days. At an age when many actors begin to reduce physically taxing work, he was stepping into it. The 1990s solidified his position. The Shawshank Redemption placed him in a role that would define his public image. The character of Red required stillness, observation, and a voice that carried weight without force. The narration, measured, calm, precise, became a defining feature. But behind that calm delivery was repetition. Multiple takes. Long hours. The physical reality of film production is rarely acknowledged. Standing for extended periods, maintaining posture, repeating emotional states on command. These are mechanical demands placed on the body. In Say 7N, he played a detective nearing retirement. The role mirrored his own stage in life. An older man navigating a system that wears people down. The shooting conditions were controlled, but the psychological tone of the film required sustained focus in dark, enclosed environments. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, his voice became a commodity. Narration work increased. Documentaries, commercials, major productions. His vocal tone, steady, low, deliberate, was now marketable. But voice work is still physical. Long recording sessions, repetition, vocal strain, breath control. Maintaining clarity over hours requires discipline and endurance, especially as the body ages. In 2004, he appeared in $1 Million Baby, directed by Clint Eastwood. The role earned him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. He was 67 years old. Recognition came late. The award did not mark the beginning of his career, it marked the acknowledgement of decades already spent working. At the same time, his presence expanded into large-scale productions. Bruce Almighty and its sequel presented him as a literal depiction of God. The casting reinforced a public perception: authority, calm, control. This image, however, created a separation between perception and reality. The audience saw stability. The industry saw reliability. But the physical cost of maintaining that presence continued to accumulate. Then, in 2008, the trajectory was interrupted. He was involved in a serious car accident in Mississippi. His vehicle overturned on a rural highway. Emergency responders had to use hydraulic tools to extract him from the wreckage. The injuries were severe. He suffered a broken arm and elbow. More critically, he experienced nerve damage. This wasn't temporary. It resulted in a condition known as fibromyalgia, leading to persistent pain in his left hand and arm. The physical consequences were immediate and long-term. Limited mobility, reduced strength, chronic discomfort. He began wearing a compression glove to manage blood flow and pain. This is the part of his life that contradicts the image. The voice remained steady, but the body required adaptation. Simple actions, gripping objects, maintaining posture, became more difficult. Statistically, individuals over 70 who experience major trauma often face prolonged recovery periods, with many never returning to previous physical baselines. Freeman continued working, but not without adjustment. After the accident, his roles increasingly leaned toward characters that required less physical strain. Authority figures, mentors, narrators. These roles aligned with his public image but also accommodated his physical limitations. At the same time, his career remained active. He appeared in major franchises, including the Dark Knight trilogy, working alongside Christopher Nolan. These productions involved long shooting schedules, complex setups, and extended periods on set. Even with reduced physical demands, the time commitment was significant. Beyond physical challenges, there were personal losses. In 2015, his step-granddaughter, Edina Hines, was killed in New York City. The incident was violent and public. Loss at that level is not abstract. It affects routine, focus, and emotional stability. Then came public controversy. In 2018, multiple allegations of inappropriate behavior were reported by media outlets. CNN published accounts from several individuals. Freeman issued a response, stating that he did not intend to make anyone uncomfortable but apologized to those who felt otherwise. The impact was immediate. Public image shifted. Projects were scrutinized. In an industry where perception drives opportunity, controversy creates measurable consequences. This phase of his life reveals a pattern. Recognition followed by complication. Achievement followed by strain. Physical, emotional, reputational. And yet, he continued working. Not at the same pace, not with the same physical capacity, but with consistency. The roles became extensions of his current state. Older men, figures of reflection, characters positioned near the end of their own narratives. The industry adapted to him, but it also reflected where he was physically and chronologically. By his 80s, Morgan Freeman was no longer building toward something. He was maintaining, preserving, adjusting to a body that had accumulated decades of labor, injury, and age. The voice remained. The posture changed. The movement slowed. And beneath the steady narration that audiences continued to recognize, there was a quieter reality. One defined not by rise, but by endurance through damage, loss, and time. At 88 years old, Morgan Freeman does not move through his days the way the public image suggests. The voice remains controlled, but the body operates under limits that are mechanical, visible, and consistent. Morning begins slower, not out of preference but necessity. The joints require time before they respond. Hands, especially the left, do not fully cooperate. The nerve damage from the 2008 crash never reversed. The compression glove is still part of his routine. Tight fabric around the hand and wrist to regulate blood flow, to reduce swelling, to manage pain that does not disappear. Chronic pain is not dramatic. It does not spike and resolve cleanly. It stays. It shifts in intensity. It affects grip, posture, and endurance. Tasks that once required no thought, buttoning a shirt, holding a utensil, maintaining a steady position, now require adjustment. The diagnosis tied to that condition, fibromyalgia, does not offer a cure. Management replaces recovery. Medication, rest, controlled movement, these become the framework. Aging compounds this. At 88, muscle mass has naturally declined. Balance is more fragile. Reaction time is slower. These are not unique to him. They are part of a broader statistical pattern. Most individuals in their late 80s experience reduced mobility, increased fatigue, and a higher dependence on structured routines. He has spoken openly about no longer being able to use his left hand fully. This is not partial inconvenience. It reshapes daily function. The dominant image of him, standing upright and composed, does not show the adjustments required between those moments. His day is structured. Time is divided between rest and limited activity. Long working hours are no longer sustainable in the same way they were even a decade ago. Film schedules, which often demand 10 to 12-hour days, require negotiation. Roles are selected not only for creative interest but for physical feasibility. Voice work continues to be a central part of his professional life. It requires less physical strain than on-set acting, but it is not without demand. Recording sessions require breath control, posture, and vocal consistency. Age affects lung capacity. It affects stamina. Maintaining the same tone over extended sessions becomes a form of controlled exertion. The voice, the very thing that defined his career, is now maintained through discipline rather than ease. Outside of work, his environment is controlled. He spends time on his property in Mississippi, where the pace is slower and more predictable. Open space, fewer external pressures, a setting that allows for routine. He has also managed businesses, including a restaurant and blues club. These ventures require oversight, but not the same physical output as acting. They provide structure without excessive strain. There is also the reality of accumulated loss. By this stage of life, the number of people from earlier decades, friends, colleagues, family, has decreased. This is not a singular event. It is gradual. The absence builds over time. The death of his step-granddaughter in 2015 remains a fixed point. Loss at that level does not resolve. It integrates into daily life. It affects perspective, even if it is not publicly displayed. Public controversy has also altered his relationship with the industry. After the 2018 allegations reported by CNN, his public interactions became more measured. Appearances became less frequent. The tone of coverage shifted. For an actor whose career depended on trust, on being perceived as stable, authoritative, any fracture in that perception carries weight. It does not erase decades of work, but it changes how that work is viewed. At 88, he is not rebuilding reputation or chasing new peaks. The focus is narrower. Maintenance of health, selective participation in projects, preservation of what remains functional. This stage of life is not about expansion. It is about management. There are visible signs. Slower walking speed, reduced range of motion, the consistent presence of the glove. These are not symbolic, they are functional responses to real limitations. Even his posture reflects adaptation. The spine, over decades, compresses. Shoulders shift forward slightly. The body redistributes weight to compensate for imbalance. And yet, when he speaks, the contrast remains. The voice carries the same cadence that audiences have associated with authority for decades. This creates a disconnect. The sound suggests stability, while the body reflects time. This is the final phase of a long trajectory, not defined by a single event, but by accumulation. Decades of labor, years of delayed recognition, physical trauma, chronic pain, personal loss, public scrutiny, aging, all of it present at once. There is no dramatic collapse, no singular ending moment. Instead, there is continuation under constraint. He still works, but within limits. He still speaks, but with effort behind the control. He still appears, but selectively. This is what remains when a career extends beyond the typical lifespan of the industry. The public sees a figure who represents calm and certainty. The reality is a man managing pain, adjusting movement, and navigating the final stage of a long physical life. So what do you think about his life, his choices, and the cost behind that voice? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. If this story stayed with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. We break down the real lives behind public figures, the parts that don't make it into headlines. Until next time, stay aware.